I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. And before we get shared, uh is this the lunch and learn screen I should be sharing? This one?
Yep. You're
Okay.
live.
All right. Everyone, I want to thank you for joining our lunch and learn. We'll start with pre-submitted questions. First question coming from Alex. Alex had a question about using fetches with a join. I'm going to share my screen and we can explore some options here. Give me a moment. Uh, Give me 2 seconds. And everyone should be able to see my flow right now. So, Alex, could you, if possible, could you come off mute? I think I understand what you're asking here. You're asking for like a fetch that has some sort of like join um behavior in it as well, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Um, is this for like is this like for a report that you're using, or is this actually like data that you're fetching and using in a flow?
I just want to know how to do it. I don't have anything built, but yes, it ultimately will be data to use in a flow. The first table can have hundreds and hundreds of records. The second table can have 10, and I only want those in the first table that match one in particular instance or a
Okay.
couple of instances.
Okay. So in decisions, we in our fetch entity set, we do have our fetch criteria, which I think would help here. Let me pull up an account. What I'm thinking, because I don't think we have a way we can actually join like with a fetch entity step, but we can specify like we can specify like where criteria within the fetch criteria step, and then we can expose that as like an input to a flow. So what you could do if you have like the list of like the 10 items that you want to, the 10 like employees that you want to do, you can add that fetch criteria as an input to the fetch entity step, and then you can map that in and it should fetch you the data that you need. Mine wants to actually load. I can.
So it is like two queries that you would be doing, right? One for the secondary table, the joined
Mhm.
table,
Mhm.
right? And use the results of that query
Mhm.
to as a where clause in the first table.
Correct. I think as of right now, there's not a way to do it with the fetch criteria. Now, if you're using a table or if you're using like a report, we do have like the relationship option where you can add a relationship to a table, and then you could get the data that way. But just using the data in the flow, we're a bit limited on how we can sort of grab it. Let me try this again real quick.
Yeah, the problem is, frankly, it's not a generic, this model, of two fetches is
Mhm.
not generic enough because, if you have three tables and you want, multiple joins, this becomes very cumbersome because you really don't know how the where clauses um, will be playing with each other, right?
Mhm.
So maybe the reporting model, or using a report, or maybe if there is a step that allows you to input a SQL query, a raw SQL query, that could probably be a better, more generic type solution. Would I be wrong?
Yeah, we have a raw SQL step, but we also the raw SQL step it can be used, but sometimes there can be performance issues with it. We definitely don't recommend that production instances, but there is what we have what we call query integrations. Once my machine decides to act up and let me navigate the portal, I can show you that option. And what it is you can create a query um and you can parameterize some inputs to that query that can be used in flows. And then you can use that step in your flow processes. Give me a few moments, please. Got to see what's
Technology.
happening here with my machine.
That helps.
I will got a few too many things up right now. There we go. Apologies for that, everyone. Let me reshare. Okay, so for that, you can go to integrations. Actually, wrong screen, actually. Let me reshare. You can come to your databases. While I'm waiting for this to load, Jeff had a question. Is there a way to get a report view of all dependencies? I will get into that in a minute. Back to Alex's question. Now that we've loaded, we can go to our connection, and then there's an option to add a query. And so with the add query, I'll just do account where email square address equals at email address. And so what you can do, Alex, is you can write your join query here, essentially. And you can give parameters are denoted by just that symbol and your variable, right? So you can go ahead and you can create this step. I just call it get accounts for now.
So here you would be putting the full SQL with all the joins and all the stuff that you need to run, right?
Right, exactly.
Got it.
And then once this is generated, you can then this will create a step within your flow. And so any sort of variables like data that you need to pass into the step, you can, you can create as a parameter, and then you can
Mm-hmm.
just map that data in.
Yeah, got it.
So I think that would probably be the best way to go about if we're just using flows. If I jump back here, you'll see you'll see the step once it's generated under integration database. The database that you created the query for. And then let's see. Yeah, here it is. Get accounts. And you'll see that parameter I placed here. And then you can map that in with any sort of value. You can change that. You can change the type as well upon the creation of the parameter. I'll jump back to it real quick. Get accounts. And you can edit the query when you need to. But your parameter here, you can choose what sort of type you have from the list we have right here.
Mm-hmm.
So that would probably be the best recommendation right now for what you want to do with a fetch.
Yeah. Can you go back to the flow for a sec?
Yeah.
And if you can click on the
The step again.
yeah, on the step that you put. By the way, I imagine that if your database is external, it would go in some other folder. Right? Because
Right.
if you have a MySQL database that you're using for your data, it will
Right.
be so DBCs or whatever, right?
Right. This is a MySQL database here. So then like any like sort of queries or anything you would make, they would end up in the folder for that database.
Got it. Got it. Sorry, on this one, the
Mhm.
output of this thing, local connection, get account result, is a list, okay, of local connection query accounts.
Mhm.
So it's an array of records, right, based on the format of the accounts table.
Right, exactly. It'll generate we generate a type that's based off the query and it'll return those records. We'll return fields based off the records that you created with the query.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's ways to sort of map that data out once you have it. We have like I think there's like a list mapping step
Mm-hmm.
that we use for there's a list mapping step. And so you can tell it what type that you want to. So I'm just using the account type since it's basically the same thing. But once you have the item mapping editor, you have the input itself, which would be like what your input, like the data that you're bringing in, and then
Mm-hmm.
the data that you're outputting or the data that you're going to be mapping to. You can use the build data option and then choose the fields that you want to map out here. You can deselect all, or you can just choose whichever ones you need. And then they'll show up as fields that you can map. What it looks like in like with a real example of this. Let me just grab this. And what will happen is the data that you pulled out, it'll give you that data, and then you can, map that data across for the map portion.
Can you run it and see what comes out or debug it?
Yeah, yeah. Give me a let me step limit the counts to 10. Say admin@decisions.com. We will build data, the account ID, let's say email address, and let's just do create on date. Get those from the input. We'll do account ID, create on date, and email address.
Mm.
It is really simple because we're just mapping the same data back, but it'll give you the data that you've mapped as an output. Right now, I just have a one item list. So it's only outputting one item, but with, larger sets of data, it'll do all the mapping with this step and it'll output a list of all the values that you mapped.
Why do you need that list mapping? Because you're getting basically the same array on the other side, right? On execute get account.
Mhm.
But why would you need a list mapping?
In case that you have like a bunch of data that an example I'm working on is I'm taking some data from a MySQL database and then, or I'm taking some data from like a regular Microsoft SQL database, and then I am mapping that and then inserting that into um, a MySQL database. And so there's some fields with different names and different IDs that I had to sort of relate to the new fields that we created.
Okay. So
And
you
so
can,
that's, and so instead of doing that all in once, I did some mapping this way. So it just took those values and mapped them to the corresponding values that I needed to for my insert statement.
oh, I see. So in your list mapping, you can probably build the array of the fields that you want to map out. You'd selected account, and that's why you
Mhm.
have all those. But
Right.
in real life, you would be changing names and then you map the way you did it, from execute get accounts output to the
Mhm.
new fields in list mapping, right?
Correct.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you so, so much.
Yeah, not a problem. Let me come back to Jeff's question. Is there a way to get a report view of all dependencies under a folder, including path, full path hierarchy? I think there's a way. We'd have to figure out some stuff via queries. Let me take a look real quick. Do we have any steps for dependency specifically? Integration, internal, see, design, document. Do we have any uh, dependency? Dependency resolution check module dependency. So we can check the dependency on a project level. What does this do? Check dependency. Hmm. Check modules install. This is based on that. So what I would probably use, we have a table, I believe it's called module dependency. Clear module C dependency, module resource dependency. There was this table. System dependency issue header. I have not messed with this table. I have used the module resource dependency to check for dependencies for certain items. So in this table, we have a module that shows dependencies based on IDs. So we could probably use hmm, from entity ID to entity ID. We could we could probably we could probably use this report. There's two ways I can think about doing this. We could use this report, but I think this only accounts for resources in projects. So if you have a resource that isn't in a project yet, there may mm, we could use this, but if we're looking for dependencies in object that are in a let me make sure I'm understanding this correct, Jeff. I think we can also take you off mute. You're looking for a way to check if there are any like resources that have dependencies that are under a separate parent, like sort of file path, correct? Um, Adrian, can we take Jeff, or can we allow Jeff to speak? Okay, that's correct. Then we could. What's the best way to handle that? I think we could. So resources. Hmm. There's ways I can think about doing it. Like we could use like a fetch we can fetch for resources in an entity folder. Hmm. wonder if we have to build a flow for this additional object. I don't know if there's a way we could. Let me look at the report real quick. I think we can maybe make use of a flow for this, or we could. Let's see. And let's see. So we can go by. We could probably go by entity header or entity data source. Does it? I don't know if this type keeps track of file full paths though. We can get the entity folder ID. We can get the entity name. We can add a filter by field. Entity folder ID. Is I wonder if we could give it, or if we could give a report a list of IDs and check for entities that are hmm, dependencies in a folder list.
Oh, he just put in the comments element usage table.
Element usage table. Oh, right.
I haven't looked at that one. I could do something with module dependency. I was aware of that table, but not element usage.
Yeah, it was element registration usage. Uses folder ID, uses ID. Oh, used by ID, use ID. This could be what we need. Let me look at that table. Let me run a query against that. Oh, this might be what you need here, Jeff. I've never heard of this table. This might be a newer table.
Yeah. Okay.
This may be what you need here. This covers a lot. I don't know if this covers all my resources on my environment, but this covers a lot.
Yeah. I can run with this one.
Okay.
I think that's the second time in 2 weeks that BT's helped me with something. Thanks.
Thank you, BT. Let's see. Does anyone else have any questions? I think, let me double check. Agent, did we have any other pre-submitted questions? I think Adrian is not here. Let me ask him. Okay, it doesn't look like there are any other pre-submitted questions. I didn't have anything else to demo other than that. Did anyone else have any questions about anything? Wanted wanted an opinion on how to go about something? All right. then I think we'll go ahead and end our meeting for today. Thank you guys for joining. I believe tomorrow is Eric Wilmerink. I believe he is next, and he will be going through and answering questions. He's been working the product a really long time. So make sure to stop by. Thank you guys for joining, and have a great day, everyone.